Welcome! This is Euphorbia globosa. It is in bloom and the flower is here, but it is so small and so inconspicuous that I will have to change my lens to show it to you, and I will do it in a moment. But first I would like to tell you about the Euphorbias that I have, and about the genus Euphorbia in general. Not all Euphorbias are succulents. There are about 2,000 species of Euphorbias, and less than a half of them are succulents. The Euphorbia that are adapted to dry conditions, that have developed the succulentism, if you can say that, are the equivalent of cacti in the old world. Cacti monopolized the deserts and the very dry areas of Americas, and Euphorbias filled that niche in Africa. But just like cacti monopolized the Americas, Euphorbias are sharing it with other genera of plants, just like the mesemps and Crassulaceae, and there are stapeliads, and there are some composite plants that have evolved to be succulents as well. And when you look at the cactus, you don't have any doubts that it is a cactus. When you look at Euphorbia, however, not always are you sure that it is a Euphorbia. Very often Euphorbias are confused with cacti because very often they look like them. I have here Euphorbia submammillaris, and it is called like that because it looks a little bit like a mammillaria. And here is a Mammillaria gracilis, just to compare. Well, it looks a little bit different because of the coloration. The Mammillaria gracilis have spines, which Euphorbia submammillaria doesn't have, but the shape of the plant, the way it grows, is very, very similar. Here I have two specimens of Euphorbia obesa, a plant that is unique because it is a dioecious plant, which means the male and female flowers develop on different plants. So the small plant, the one on the left, is a female, and the one on the right is a male. And if you, well, have a look at the top of the plant, there are already fruits here, and inside each fruit there should be 3 seeds. And here on top of this plant there are male flowers that produced pollen that pollinated the female flowers. Euphorbia obesa looks very much, when it's young, looks very much like an astrophytum, and here is an astrophytum to compare. The shape of the plants are very similar. Maybe when the obesa gets older, it doesn't look very much like an astrophytum, but when it's young, when it's small, it is very easily confused with a cactus, with an astrophytum. In fact, when it's older, it looks like a cactus as well. And here is another Euphorbia. It's Euphorbiaceraeformis, which means a Euphorbia that looks like a cereus. And it does look like a cactus. It looks like a cereus. And again, just because they live in similar conditions, that's because they occupy very similar niches, ecological niches, they developed the same shape. And this is Euphorbia caput Medusa, which is a succulent but doesn't look like a cactus at all. It's quite weird in shape. Medusa was a character from Greek mythology, and it was a woman with snakes instead of hair. And this is a perfect name for this plant, for this euphorbia, because those stems that grow through that grow from the main trunk or head of the plant look very much like you would imagine the mythological Medusa. I would like to share something else with you when we speak about this plant. It has developed roots that reach the bottom of this container. The roots grew very, very quickly when there was some water at the bottom. The roots developed within a couple of weeks, not as long of course, but when I realized that there are roots growing down, I was not watering the plant anymore from the top. I was just making sure that there is water in this container. The water doesn't reach, the level of water doesn't reach the pot. The pot is completely dry. The roots that are still in the pot are completely dry, and the bottom of the plant of course is dry as well, which seems to be working very well for this plant because there is a lot of air around the roots in the pot, and all the water that they take, all the water that the roots take is taken from the bottom of this container, and the plant seems to be really happy about that. I didn't do it on purpose, it just happened. But when I noticed that it happened, I just am trying to make sure that the roots don't dry out. Because if there is no water in the container at all, if the container dries out, if the water is used by the plant or evaporated or something like that, the roots just die and dry out. And this is exactly what happens in nature. And this is the last euphorbia I have. This is Euphorbia aeruginosa. And as you see, it has quite well-developed spines, which is unusual for Euphorbias, because Euphorbias have developed milky sap that is very poisonous, that is highly toxic and irritant, which is a very powerful defense against any animal or insect that might want to take advantage of the fact that there is water stored in its body. So this species has developed spines, but it is something very unusual for Euphorbias. And in contrast for cacti, every cactus has some spines. Some of them are sharper than others, but this is a very characteristic feature of a cactus, not of Euphorbias. So Euphorbias, just like cacti, developed a shape that allows them to store water, to minimize the evaporation by reducing the surface area in proportion to the volume of the plant. And in this way, they developed in a very similar way to cacti. They are occupying a similar niche, so they have developed, they have evolved to look similar. However, the flowers are developing, are evolving completely independently, because the evolutionary pressure is not from the environment, it's from the pollinator. And the flowers of Euphorbias and the flowers of cacti are completely different. I will change my lens now and I will show you the flower of Euphorbia globosa. So this is a flower of Euphorbia globosa. As you can see, it is very small, very inconspicuous. It doesn't have petals or sepals. And this is something that is characteristic to all Euphorbias. If you remember Euphorbia milii, which has bright red flowers, the red color doesn't come from petals. These are just leaves that evolved to be the equivalent of sepals in other plants, in the flowers of other plants. Euphorbias flowers are not actually single flowers. They are clusters of flowers which are called cyatium, and each cyatium is a cluster of separate male and female flowers that are together, and they attract their pollinators by producing nectar. And because they don't have large petals and sepals, because they are very small, the plant can actually afford to have them open for a very long time, leaving many days or even weeks for the pollinators to pollinate them. They are pollinated by insects, but because they are open for a long time, they can, and because they don't attract their pollinators by the way they look, they can be pollinated at night as well, which is a huge bonus. Cacti flowers are very large, very colorful, but because they are large, they create a huge surface area for the water to evaporate. They require a huge effort from the plant to create them, and that's why they are usually open for 1 or 2 days at the most. So this is where evolution chose a completely different path in plants that are very similar in other aspects. I hope you like my Euphorbia globosa, and I hope you like my very modest collection of Euphorbias. I have created a video about Euphorbia obesa about a month ago, and you're very welcome to visit it. Thank you so very much for watching. Have an amazing afternoon.